Hey guys, what's going on? This is Brad from the Ad Army, and today I actually have a video for you, the final video of Giving Week, but one I've been wanting to talk about, and we actually have the 3 decks that made me a better Yu-Gi-Oh player, and why I could help you guys. So first, as always, like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to join the Ad Army. We are on the race to 100 subs, and I'd love for you to be there with me. So today's topics are actually going to focus on the 3 decks that made me a better player, and I'm going to focus it on the 3 sub topics. So we've got playing what you like, we've got playing a deck you don't like but makes you a better player by understanding different rulings and getting better at just playing the game in general, and the final one is actually going to be the first deck you play. So pretty much the 3 standard archetypes. I don't think there's anything too crazy there. Also, apology guys for me. It's pretty late where I'm recording this, so I'm not trying to be too loud, but also simultaneously, guys, I'm a little tired, so I'm trying to keep my voice up, but at the same time, not trying to go too low. But also be quick about it because this is the final day of Giving Week. I put a lot into the videos this week, and I'm really glad for all those who came and have joined on the Ad Army. They're on the ride. We are on the race, and they're with us. So, as always, let's get into it. So, I'm going to actually start off with the first deck you play because I think it's thematically the most proper way to start the video. So, what was the first deck I actually truly played? Now, I actually have a tie spot here, but it's going to be the deck that actually got me off the ball in terms of being a player, and I mean a good player, because obviously there's sometimes we have these decks that are more casual, or decks that, you know, we start with, but they don't really promote us in the way of being a better player because maybe we just don't get it, or we're not skilled, or maybe the deck's just out of our depth. And I'm going to pick the deck that actually got me into the depth of the game. And believe it or not, that's actually going to be Monarchs. So one thing about Monarchs is it wasn't just me picking up structure decks. It was more of I need to find a deck that I knew how to play. And when it came to my friend group, one thing I had a problem with was I was not good with combo decks. I tried learning a few of them. I was just absolutely miserable at them. And yes, Monarchs do have combos, but I need something linear to play. Because believe it or not, when I actually started getting better at the game during high school, one of the problems I had was I was just completely I didn't had no understanding of the game. I had played it, like, you know, as everyone calls, like, a playground Yu-Gi-Oh type thing where everybody has kind of done it where they didn't know what they were doing. This was the thing where I had no idea what I was doing, so I had to pick a deck that could basically get me there, but at the same time, teach me how to play. Now, this was the deck that I chose because it kind of pushed me in the right direction. I'm not going to lie. The reason why Monarchs got me there over all the other decks was that when I actually picked this up, I needed a deck that was not too bad, but like easy to do. So I decided I was going to skip on special summoning for the most part and just focus on tribute summoning till I got the hang of it, and Monarchs was the way. Now, there are obviously things that are part of the deck that made it alluring. The fact that it was kind of cheap because I was still budget minded then because I didn't make a lot of money because I was in high school. So, you know, I didn't have an allowance or nothing. I actually had to make all my money. So I worked on it and made sure I had to use it as best as I could. So when I literally, I think when I started playing Monarch, I only bought a structure deck. I didn't even buy multiples. So I eventually was like, I was using Amazon at the time to buy cards. Completely separate story, but that was what I was doing. And effectively, yeah, I built together like a really hodgepodge Monarch deck. Basically, it was enough to get me through and get me started. One of the main things, obviously, is like domain is alluring. I used it against my friends. They were definitely more extra deck heavy. The thing that was really good with this was Monarchs really allowed me to kind of compete with my friends who had more knowledge because they were more so surprised that it was powerful because no one really played it at all. So I was the only one doing it, but it was different. It helped them as well because they had the matchup, and I was really good with it. So that's kind of why Monarchs itself settles in as like the first deck you play because it really got me in the door. It really got me focused. So if you've never played Monarchs, guys, I would highly suggest to look into it. I really like the fact that even a big YouTuber like Lithium actually brought it to, I think, YCS Dortmund, and he was actually one of the feature matches. He did pretty well with the deck and keeps showing that the deck is still playable to this day. So as a first deck, I was really glad to play it. Lots of different things in the deck that really help out. You know, obviously Erebus and Aether were just so strong. And also Stormforth was one of my favorite cards based on the fact that it was able to transition from my Monarch deck to my True Draco deck, which was the next deck I ended up playing after Monarchs because it was hit too much and I didn't really... I got better at the game, so I wanted to try something different. And True Draco was basically just a natural transition. for me. So that was the first deck I played, and effectively it really got me there. I really am happy I've played Monarch. I could probably go back and play it now. It's not anything I wouldn't be able to do, and I'm really happy when I play something like Edison that Monarchs are actually playable in the format, and they're ones I've never really used, so it's really fun. And I want to move into, I'm going to skip the deck, playing what you like, because I want to really talk about that last, because it's more of a heartfelt thing. But we're going to talk about the decks that you play that you probably didn't want to, but they made you a better player. Now, this could be any deck for you guys. Usually it's a deck that maybe it's out of your range of depth and you're just not prepared. Now, by the time I actually got into the next deck, I'd actually had probably 3 or 4 decks under my belt, and actually had gone through my first like major combo decks like twice. So by no means was I like a rookie when I picked up this next deck. But when it comes to being more sharp, precise, understanding rulings, playing, being technical, this was the deck that pushed me to the next level, and that's actually going to be Sky Striker. Now, obviously, I'm going to get the jokes aside, not just for waifus or anything like that. I actually wanted to play this deck. I actually hated this deck for a long time. That was also mostly because I played against a lot of striker players at my various locals that I ended up going to when I was younger. And one of the things that annoyed me the most was very arrogant striker players, because there were the ones that are top tier people. I've met a few of them. Those people, obviously, they would cream you with the deck. That's not even me just joking. They would destroy you. However, confident people, and the ones I really hated the most were I don't ever think I'll see this guy again, and I don't blame him, but one thing that really irritated me was one time I was playing locals, and I was playing Tri Brigade. This is actually before I ended up picking up Striker. This guy had an all ulti Striker core. Now, that was fine. I don't care that was ulti. I had a problem with it being in German, and the guy didn't even bother to bring translations. So we had to look up everything. I ended up winning, but the point was, it was really annoying. That was a bad experience for me. The guy wasn't sharking me or anything, but then I got really mad when he kept telling me, oh, the effects do this and that. So something like a shark cannon having its additional effect, and I'm like, dude, I can't read it. I don't know what it does. And I know some people will say you should have probably played by the matchup by that time, because obviously Striker had been out for a while. That's not the point, guys. When I go to locals, not every time people are playing the same decks. They rotate a lot, and there are obviously devoted Striker players, but I just dodge them. But usually I played good Striker players, and I've also played bad Striker players. Funny enough, from my friends, I love them both. But one of my other friends, he picked up Striker first. He was actually pretty good with the deck, but it didn't mesh with him, so he ended up getting rid of it to another friend. And he knows who he is. I love him. Point aside, though, he was not very good with Striker. I didn't mesh with him. He didn't really understand the plays too much. It wasn't that he's a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that the play style wasn't hit for him, and eventually he wanted to get rid of it. So I ended up picking it up. I almost picked it up as a challenge, because I was like, you know what, I'll pilot the deck and I'll probably get it right. And believe it or not, I was right and wrong. First of all, I was right because I actually ended up liking the deck. I really like Sky Striker. I think it's a deck that I would play in various formats if I feel like I want to switch it up, because it's very techy. You can like mess with it a bit, but at the same time, it's extremely technical. So I don't mean techy as in like I can manipulate it much. No, it's very technical because there's a lot of things you have to keep in mind. One of the things I really thought was interesting about Sky Striker specifically is that when you're learning to play this strategy, one of the things that goes over people's heads a lot is the fact that the deck is, one trick pony. It's not really, because usually you get in situations where you can be in that space where you can just poke someone to death with like a Hayate, but that almost never happens always. It's just, usually Yu-Gi-Oh! RNG, and we don't have, unless you're playing like a big floodgate deck. I did play Mystic Mine. I did play like TC Boo in the deck before, but personally I kind of hated it because it really telegraphed your plays. You would lose a lot. But where it comes to Striker being a deck that you play it even though you don't like it, but then you learn it, is that the technicalities. Like, you learn to use Widow Anchors for not just being aggressive, but protection. You lose Shark Cannons in different ways. You learn to focus on using the end phases as ways to disrupt your opponent. You can dodge certain effects then. There's also like, I guess the move is like the Shizuku Shuffle, where you Widow Anchor your own Ray, you tag it out in the end phase, go for the Shizuku will search in the end phase. There's little things about this deck that's really unique. I don't think a lot of people would see, like, there's sometimes people don't see it. They just see striker and they're like, oh, it's whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of things that if you're playing against a good striker player, you need to be careful, because if they know what they're doing, the deck can easily take you down. But if they don't know what they're doing, then that person can completely implode. Like when I first started playing, the first thing was I knew how to play the deck, but I wasn't playing it effectively, so I was getting knocked around a lot by other decks in matchups I should have won, but I was just unsure, so I lost those matchups. So Striker was that deck that really kind of like pushed me over the edge to be more, conscientious about playing the game and then like actually understanding the states of the game. Because one thing I think that's a bit interesting was that when you start evolving your mindset for maybe being more competitive than casual, you start to notice that turns start to matter. Your trigger effects also start to matter. And I mean by matter is like you start to keep in mind all of these things like unconsciously, because you start to get better at the game. It starts to focus in your mind. And if your deck is like a lot pivoted higher in terms of its difficulty level, like I would say Striker's a very difficult deck for beginners because it has so many technical pieces. If you're not used to like all the technicalities of Yu-Gi-Oh to some degree, the deck will like run you down because you're going to be trying to keep track of things, or one accidental usage of like a Widow Anchor without having 3 spells that can spell doom for you, because it's like, yeah, it's like impermanence, but still that's not going to help you because now you can't extend your game state. You really you want to take that monster. Maybe you want to use the Shark Cannon to bring a monster from their graveyard, summon it to your field because you need to link off. There's these little things that this deck specifically does that makes it so unique, I would say, that really helps a player grow. And that's honestly one of the decks where I would actually say it kind of helped me out a lot. I'm glad I played it. I still actually have a small core. Point is, I'd go back to the deck, and yeah, I would suggest it to people if they want to try something that they're not comfortable with, because Striker is really unique. Now, moving into the final deck, this is actually a deck I've talked about a little bit on the channel. I never really got to talk about a lot because other stuff has taken precedent, or I wanted to focus on other things, because I still love this deck and I'll play it tribally. Also, I'm waiting for more support and also like to spend more money, because I could play the deck in this format. It's just not very good, and I don't really have time to play as much as I'd like to. So when I do, I'd like to play something new, just because I'm used to the plays here. And that's going to be one of my downtown favorites, my go-to guys. We have heroes. So yes, I'm a hero player. Yes, I'm a Californian. Yes, that those two things go together. And yes, I like me some heroes. Now, playing what you like is very important because it shows you that you need to resolve to make a deck work, and also feeling comfortable with strategies. Now, what I mean by this is when I actually picked up heroes, quick story, I was actually debating on not playing it because I had a friend in my friend group. He was the one who was supposed to be the hero player, which among us, because like if you guys have the friend groups like some people do, they always usually play either different decks, or they don't want to conflict with each other unless like they're like a highly competitive team. In that place, usually people are like trying to build the best deck, so they don't care if they play the same deck, because sometimes people play differently. However, in my friend group, we all just wanted to play different things and be unique because it was kind of our play style. I was like the control stun guy. My other friend playing pendulums was like the super wombo combo guy. And then my friend who ended up playing stuff like, why am my mind blanking? He played stuff like Punk, uh, Sword Soul, stuff like that, mid-range combo decks. So like we all had our own things. Now when it came to this, one of my friends, he was basically just a fusion guy, so he loved GX, all that stuff. But one thing was he was always talking about how he's the hero guy. He'd smack up people with heroes. But then one day I remember getting kind of annoyed because like he doesn't really like play modern format with us, so it's like it's not even fair. And then I think something came up where I was like, I could play heroes better, because I started looking at the cards. Stratos had just come back to 3, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to play heroes, because I always wanted to play Destiny Heroes. Is just Destiny Heroes prior to like DPE, stuff like that. They weren't really that good. So you could play it, but it was really tough. I played in Arc 5 Destiny Heroes. They kind of sucked, to be honest. Like I get the support what was supposed to do, but it was just like it didn't make sense to accelerate the deck into the modern format. It was just, here you go, here's some new hero cards, whoop-de-doo. Now, I ended up being the one to actually pick up heroes heavily, right before Vision Heroes came out, actually. So it was really unique, really powerful. And I was like, I'm going in. And I went in on the deck. And believe it or not, I'm happy I did, because if I hadn't gone in at the time, and I wasn't making too much money then because I was in college, but when I spent the money to buy my 3 Ferris and double increase, man, I think I spent like 34, 37, like for the whole core. And, literally, like I think 2 weeks later, after a YCS or maybe some regionals, literally the card shot up in price because everybody realized how good it was. And next thing I know, it's basically impossible for me to pick it up. And I had already picked up my core, so I wasn't worried. And I was like, I can play full power hero. And it was fun. Like, I had a great time playing it, learning it. I enjoyed it. Super Poly coming back was really cool. And it kind of brings me to the point where I want to say playing what you like is important. So the reason heroes are important for me is that I went through so many different formats playing heroes, even up until I think my last format where I played it was a while ago, but not too long ago. But I played it for like 3 years, I think, dedicated. It was basically like my only deck that I really was working on, really pumping it up. And it was honestly like my way through college. Like, it was the deck that kind of stuck with me. If I had to put it honestly, like through my, I would say my youth journey through like high school to the end of or start of college, it was like stun control decks like True Draco, uh, Monarchs, stuff like that came with me. And then when we got to the Vrains era, I played Goki, so that was good. I just liked the fact they were wrestlers, but the point is those stuck with me. But Heroes was the one that kind of like trudged through me while I was in like my toughest points at school, but also like dealing with life as well. So, believe it or not, Heroes were with me while I was trying to become my own hero in my own story type junk. So, stuff like that. But point is, Heroes specifically went through so many changes with me. I went from not being able to play it at full power to being able to play it my version of full power to being able to play as much as I'd like to, stuff like that over and over and over again. It was really enjoyable. I think that the funny thing is I went from being able to play Super Poly with it, which was really good, to being able to not being able to play it with like the evil hero cards because they were so expensive. They were short printed. There was a whole fiasco. I'm just glad. I was like, well, I guess I'm not getting those. And personally, people are like, yeah, you need to play it. I'm like, not really. It was good, but I learned from playing with my deck at that time. I didn't need it. Like, I just thought it was better without it. Then also when Liquid Soldier came out, it was so expensive and I wasn't able to jump on it and I played without it. Funny enough, I played Bubble Man as my water for so long. And honestly, I'm just kind of happy I did because I made it work and it was fun. And then finally I just said, screw it. I wanted to take Heroes to the next level because I wanted to make it work. And I realized I'd rather have the Liquid for the combos. And even though I had the Bubble Man, it wasn't doing enough because Liquid is like really hard to replace because there's no water substitute hero. So I splurged the money. I spent the $40. But by that time I could spend more money on the game. But point was, that was expensive to me. Like, that was I think it's the most expensive money I ever spent on a card that wasn't trading, where I didn't trade as well. Because like I bought expensive cards, but I always did trading. I always got rid of a bunch of stuff. I would dump a whole binder for a few cards instead as a way, because I would not want to spend my money. And I've done that plenty of times. In this case, I did the same thing. I ended up, being able to get my hero core through that principle, but also got DPE, got the works. Point is, Heroes is the deck that has been with me, and it was the one that I learned to love, but at the same time, it was what I liked to play. I liked the combos, I liked playing it, but simultaneously, I made it work because I enjoyed the deck so much. And I want to get that to you guys because at the core of it, when you learn to play what you like, you start to find things that are beautiful about it. Like, I think in the struggle, you can find things that shine. Like, I always thought, Dark Claw is really good, but also, heroes have this really interesting matchup where they can go back and forth, and there's even more support now. But from the 3 decks that I talked today, like, learning to play what you like, learning to play what you don't like, but it teaches you, and then your first deck, all those things culminate in building you into a better player overall. And like, one thing that was funny is when I was in high school, I had a dance teacher that would say, in the end of the day, she didn't really care about making better dancers. She wanted to make better people. So if anything I could do for Giving Week to give back to you guys is, at the end of the day, regardless if it's a card game or something else in life, the one thing you probably want no matter what is to be a better person. And I think by going on the journey with these 3 decks, like talking about it, to me brings back very fond memories, also difficult memories, you know, and also just making me remember these good times I had with these decks, because a lot of, I think, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or just card games in general is built on us having great times with friends, family, maybe, just enjoying what to do. And the decks are a big part of it. I really do. Like, I would think about my decks I play now. They're not anything, well, not completely like the decks I played before. And in this case, I really like the fact that I can look back on that experience and just enjoy it. So pretty much that's all I really got for you guys today. I really hope that maybe this helped, but also this is a good thing for me to kind of take a break from giving week, because pumping out those videos were a little bit tough, but not in a bad way. Just getting it done because Thanksgiving for me was, or Thanksgiving week was busy for me. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, there'll be content coming out next week. As always, I'm not going to stop. It's just not going to be 7 days a week, but still, I'm going to be pumping out, content for you guys. So as always, this is Brad from the Ed Army signing off. And for all of you out there, to sign on.